Okay. Hi, I'm Matt
Hi, how
Nisanoff
are
of South Central Verkland United for Progress. Thank you for
how are you?
joining us for this part of our endorsement process.
Thank you for
In
having
this
me.
interview, we're speaking with candidate for City Council District 40, Cecilia Cortez. The format will be a 5-minute statement from Ms. Cortez, followed by a 10-minute period for questions and answers. Ms. Cortez, thank you for filling out the candidate questionnaire, which is available on our website, as will this interview. So we'll go right into it. Please start with your 5-minute statement, please.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me. My name is Cecilia Cortez. I'm running for City Council District 40 in Brooklyn. I was born in Ecuador, Bato, a small city in the Andes Mountains. My family moved to the United States when I was a teenager. I attended Midwood High School, and then I went to college, SUNY College at Purchase. I decided I wanted to become a teacher. I went to NYU and I got a master's in deaf education. I was a teacher of the deaf for the Department of Education for 35 years, teaching deaf and hard of students in Brooklyn. At the same time, I also work as a chapter leader for the United Federation of Teachers. I represented teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing in the 5 boroughs in all settings, 500 of them. I make sure that the teachers' rights were respected, the contract was followed, and everybody was given due process. I also work in my community. I have lived in Dimas Park for 30 years, and I have been part of the community. Currently, I am the vice president of Dimas Park West Association. Through the years, I have worked in many events, organizing dinners, progressive dinners, the Arbor Day, the um, a garage sale in the summer, barbecue. We have many events. We have a newsletter. But at the same time, I have worked with other organizations in the community, the Flatbush Network and people in need, serving the community. When 9/11 happened, I helped the community to heal. When Sandy happened, the community immediately came forward. We start cooking for communities in the Rockaways because they were devastated by the storm. And now that COVID has happened, I've been there distributing food because there is this food insecurity in the community. I also work at the library, providing after school services to students. I was the homework helper teacher in the afternoon, making sure the students did the homework and so they can keep up with the work. Many of the students are children of immigrants. They don't speak the language. And I was able to provide tutoring and support so that they can succeed in the school year. When my son was in school, I volunteered in his school to be helping in all kinds of events, organizing trips and many events that took place. I have always helped the community, and running for city council is a next step for me. I retired a year ago, and I have continued to be very active in the community. And this opportunity that the seat opens because of term limits for Mr. Matthew, seems to be the next step for me. So I bring the experience and not only of the work I have done as a community organizer, as a representative for the UFT, but also as an immigrant who speak Spanish, sign language, and I had the experience that have provided me to help and understand and bring people from many different parts of the world together and to have a better life in my community. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent statement. And let's go right into the question and answer. We'll do this for about 10 minutes and then we'll wrap up. I see a hand up. Sarah, let's go to your question, please.
Hi, good evening, Ms. Cortez. Thank you for joining us. I noticed in your questionnaire that you had talked about wanting to increase the community's access to healthcare. I was hoping you can expand on how you plan to do that. We were also wondering if you would consider supporting the New York Health Act, which is a state bill that would provide healthcare for all New Yorkers. And if so, if you'd be interested in signing the pledge for that.
Yes, absolutely. I would be interested in signing the pledge. I support healthcare for all. That includes immigrants and people, all kinds of people who need healthcare. Healthcare is a right, and I think that we all should have it. My community, District 40, is a poor community, and we have been affected by COVID, and also some hospitals have closed. They were trying to limit some beds in some hospital. I think if I'm stand correct in Brookdale, I think that they were closing some beds and they were canceling. And this is not the time to close hospitals when there is such a need for people who have COVID and they need to go to the hospital. It was, but there was a report that we had, and I was very saddened and disappointed. And if elected to become a city council, I will fight to keep hospitals open and to have more access to healthcare for the community. If we bring healthcare to the community will get healthier. And that in itself will be cheaper than to have a community constantly without service and much sicker. Much research has been saying that poor communities use the emergency room as primary care, and we need to move that. We need to bring healthcare so that communities have access to regular checkups, to vaccinations, to education, so that they could be healthier. So I will work hard for that. Thank you. And I will sign the pledge for healthcare for everybody.
Excellent. And Jess and then Michael. Go ahead, Jess.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. Cortez. How are you?
Okay, how are you? How you
I'm
doing?
good. I have a question about education, and since you have a background in educating with the deaf, I don't know if you worked in D75. I'm guessing so, but so I'm on the Education Council for District 22, and through my time on that council, I've gotten to know a lot of families who represent or who have students in the D75 special education system. And one thing that's come to light is how these schools are often segregated and kept separate from the general population of the public schools, even if they are co-located. I'm wondering if you favor having these programs, these classes more integrated into the district general ed public schools, and if so, how you think your role on city council could help facilitate that.
Well, I did work for 35 years for the Department of Education, and I was a teacher of the deaf. And for 15 years, I was in the classroom, and we have classes, full-time classes for the deaf and hard of hearing students in the schools. And it was a self-contained class. and they were for different levels. They were for we moved for elementary, middle school, high school for the deaf. I don't particularly understand exactly what classes are you talking about, but in District 75, we are from District 75. We as teachers, as issues and policies changes in the Department of Education, they make different decisions constantly, many times without the approval of the parents and without the approval of the teachers. And in 2000, they decided to close all the self-contained classes of the deaf. And they were all the teachers. So what are we going to do? They, I'm very sure that the Department of Education would have been very happy to let us go, but thank God for the union said, no, you cannot let them go. You have to guarantee them a job. So they said, oh, follow them. So immediately to that, we started to follow the students. So we became itinerant teachers. And we went to the teachers of the deaf. I became a teacher of the deaf, an itinerant teacher of the deaf. And I went to 5 schools a day, providing service to deaf students in every school. Deaf students are not that many. There are not a lot of deaf students in every school. So wherever the deaf students were, I went there and I served them. And those students were part of District 75. There are some schools, like for instance, OTCs that serve only students that have mm, mm, problems, some educational problem, learning problems, and but I don't think you're talking about them. There are every school have special ed programs that serve some students who have delays in different areas. So is that what you're talking about? But at the same time, all these classes belong to District 75, but they are in the schools and they are serving students who have different delays. There are students who are deaf, blind, learning disabilities, speech delays, and all that. So so the question is, how will I help them? Is that what's the question? I wasn't sure what exactly was the question. Could you repeat the question, Ms. Jess?
Hold on, hold on. Okay, now you can hear me. So no, the question was, yes, thank you for, that's like so much. I love everything that you've, all the work you've done and all the information. It's mostly about, I think I'm being specific about like the D70. So basically there's like, I think one of the concerns of some D75 parents or students, because there is that overlap between like our districts and the D75, but that their children are being sent so far away from their home, right, to get the services that they need, rather than because our schools, our local schools, can't provide for whatever reason the services that their children need. And some schools can, but like in District 22, we only have 4 elementary schools that are fully accessible, or something like not. I think it's 3 elementary schools that are fully accessible, and maybe 2 middle schools. So I'm wondering what you like. Do you think that our district schools should become more accessible to students with disabilities and who need special instruction? And if so,
Absolutely.
how would you help facilitate that?
Absolutely, we should have at schools. I mean, I have been in schools where and the reason and something that is interesting is that because I have been in different schools, sometimes I go to a school and they said that is not possible, and I go to the other school and it's happening, and I come back and said it is possible. I just came from the other school and they are doing that program. So yes, we should have schools with access. We should have schools where they provide service for the students, even students with disabilities, students who have different limitations, and we don't have to send them away. All the schools should provide those kind of service for students, or students should not have to travel miles away just to get an education. It's all right to
Okay,
get education.
let me wrap up on that one because we do have one more question and we're bumping up against the time limit. I do want Michael to have his chance to ask his question as well. Please, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Hi, Cecilia. Congratulations on deciding to run.
Thank you.
So on your questionnaire, when asked about housing, you said the number of homeless has grown in District 40 and that the way to stop this is to create permanent housing and create affordable housing. But I noticed you're also against the 1620 Cortellu upzoning, citing one of the concerns you cite is increased density. So my question is, what is your plan to create affordable housing while preserving the character of the neighborhood, as you say? And can it be done without increasing housing supply and density?
You know, District 40 has different, it's a completely diverse neighborhood, and different places are different. When you're talking about, like, for instance, District Dimas Park West is not a historical, it's not a landmark yet. We have been trying to get landmark, but it's not landmark. It's just a Victorian place, but it's not that big. It's just 5 blocks, and we have other buildings that be, but they have been a tremendous increase of buildings and development, and those have been of luxury housing, and those luxury houses are empty. You can go to Dorchester and Westminster, a huge building empty because it's a luxury apartment and nobody can afford it. So now they're changing. They're gonna make it. They're gonna sell the units individually because they haven't been able to rent it. So now they're changing they're going to change the status of that building, and they're waiting for other permits. So it's empty. But the reason they're doing that is because they were not able to rent it because the rents were very high. And we have enough buildings. What they're doing is that they just bringing down a house, and putting a building, a luxury building, and I'm opposed to that because we don't need those high buildings in our neighborhoods. District 40 is already saturated with high buildings. But what we have to do is we have to use what we have already. It has already been built. We should start focusing in what we have and making affordable. The city has the voucher program. Why don't we validate the vouchers? Make it the price of the market so that the people who have the vouchers can rent it. That's a very good way to give housing to the homeless and to use the current buildings that we have without having to bring down houses and without having to put up more apartment buildings that are mainly luxury.
Okay, Mrs. Cortez, we're going to wrap up here in just a minute or two. I did want to quickly ask what your view is of the current status of the Brooklyn Democratic Party.
The Brooklyn Democratic Party. Well, well, you know, I was a teacher, and I was really on the outskirts of the politics, and I didn't know much about it. It has been lately that I have become aware of the whole thing and have learned a lot of things. But Ms. Bichard is the boss now, and whatever she said goes these days. I read a few things about her. There are many articles in different newspapers about her. Her nephew is also running for District 40, Pierre. So, she also, I read an article about that she invalidated many of the signatures of one of the runner for District 37 because she was in favor of the person who won. So there are many stories, and you really sometimes you have to believe a little bit or take it with a grain of salt or think, but you have to be cautious. And it's a new administration, and she is making sure that everybody knows who's the boss. And we will see what happened in the very near future, and we will see who won for District 40, especially since her nephew is running. And let's see if she keep us on the ballot, because a lot of people have told me, be very careful how many signatures you get for the ballot, because she's gonna have an eye on you, because you have been on the streets and a lot of people know you. And it's true, I go to the streets every day handing out my cards, telling people how I feel about things. This is me. You have seen some posters around Cecilia Cortez running for City Council, District 40. And so people have gotten to know me. So we'll see. In the meantime, I hope that one of the things I wanted to do is I feel strongly that I will be able to work with all kinds of people. Because of the work I have done for over 30 years, I have learned to work with people from all backgrounds, all different countries, and I have been able to move forward and bring solutions. So I have confidence that I will be able to work with this.
Excellent. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for being here tonight and speaking with us. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for this part of the South Central Brooklyn United for Progress Candidates Endorsement process. We hope you'll visit the website. That's SCBK United for Progress.
I have.
And there's your interview, and also there'll be this the questionnaire that you filled out earlier. And then, of course, for the next step, there'll be a vote on endorsements at our general meeting on February 21st at 4 p.m. Once again, thank you, candidate for City Council District 40 seat, Cecilia Cortez.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I am very honored if you pick me. Thank you very much. Good luck to everybody. Thank you.